This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some important updates to share with you with the country being ravaged by inflation. Who is going to fix it? I'm going to play a video clip from both the Democrats and Republicans dueling it out. AOC versus Ted Cruz. Take a look at this.
When it talks about inflation, when we talk about redline, when we talk about who can get a mortgage and who can't, how it's 10 times harder to be poor in America or to be working class in America.
Is a very simple question for folks at home. Are you better off now than you were 2 years ago when Joe Biden became president?
I'll play you the full clip of what they are going to do to help out this country. Also, just 2 days left for residents to claim $850 checks, and $500 monthly checks are going out this week. And I'll give you some other important updates as well. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel for more straight-to-the-point daily updates on important matters that financially matter to you. And I'm giving $200 checks to my subscribers. I'll talk more about that later on in the video, but first, stimulus update. Maine residents have just 2 days to claim $850 direct relief check payments. So these $850 checks went out over the summer, but for anyone who did not receive it, you have until Monday, the 31st, to file a 2021 individual income tax return. And then if you do that, then you could get your $850 check there. Then also guaranteed income. Americans to start getting monthly direct payments of $500 in the mail next week. See the exact date and eligibility. This is going on in Evanston, Illinois. It's a guaranteed income program, also known as a universal basic income program. And the first $500 monthly payments start going out October 31st, just tomorrow, Halloween. And then when we talk about the economy and inflation data shows U.S. prices were still uncomfortably high last month. So some more inflation economic data came out. The Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, also known as the PCE, which measures prices paid by consumers for goods and services, climbed 0.3% from August to September, but remained unchanged at 6.2% for the year, according to the latest data that just came out a couple of days ago. So still, inflation really high, not looking good. What is going to be done about it? Well, with the midterms just about a week away, we're hearing a lot from both the Democrats and the Republicans, a lot of promises, a lot of claims to be made to try to get votes. And this could be a big vote right here, because it could decide what's going to happen with Congress. Is it going to flip or not? So I'm going to play you two video clips, one from AOC, one from Ted Cruz. They're both kind of like the very outspoken for each of their parties, respectively. Take a look first at AOC, and then I'll play you Ted Cruz's clip.
I've watched Democrats struggle, I think, to find this message, and some do it better than others, is, you know, this question of weaving together this coalition of sort of solidarity across these lines of difference, which is that, like, it doesn't have to be zero sum. Like, I get the piece of pie, so you don't, right? And I think that's particularly relevant, it seems to me, in the case of these midterms, right? Because at one level, it's like, it feels existential from the level of democracy, and I think it is in some ways. But it's also like, I was just talking to someone who works on a political campaign who was talking about being in NYCHA houses, which is the public housing here, and it's like, he's talking to people that can't feed their kids, right? That's what's front of mind for them. And I guess the question to you is, like, how do you message around this stuff in an environment where people are focused on real, important, material, immediate concerns, and also those concerns are being used to kind of pry people in such a way that they tip the scales towards this political party that increasingly doesn't believe in democracy?
Well, I mean, I think what's really important, and the way that we message about this, is talking about the racial realities of our economic issues and the economic realities of racial issues. That these things are not distinct or siloed. If you are a Black American, if you are Black or Latino, in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you were disproportionately targeted for unjust incarceration. Then once that happened, particularly centered on the war on drugs, then once you have that on your record, you cannot access housing in the same way. You cannot get employed in the same way. You have all these structural barriers that really funnel you into being trapped in poverty. When it talks about inflation, when we talk about redline, when we talk about who can get a mortgage and who can't, how it's 10 times harder to be poor in America or to be working class in America, and how that divide is growing. All of these things are very interconnected, and they want us to think that they're very separate, that it's either or. And even when we talk about issues like inflation, a lot of this has to do with the massive consolidation of our markets and corporate greed. Our inflation is not going up due to government policies. Inflation is going up due to Wall Street decisions and the idea that they can just squeeze us for every penny that we're worth. And we can also say that and acknowledge the fact that that's impacting some communities more than others. And that, I think, is how we can really emphasize this message. But you know, I think it's just really important to, again, center this fact that this idea that it's either or is very dangerous. And the idea that emphasizing social equity is somehow a detriment to our democracy is playing into the hands of the folks that don't want us to talk about either.
But increasingly in the last few weeks, you've heard Republicans starting to talk about, if they win the House, what they'll do. And it's like, hold the debt ceiling hostage, cut social spending, maybe cut Medicare and Social Security if we can, and make the tax cuts permanent is like the guiding North Star. Like when everything is wiped away in the end, that's in the dollars and cents sense, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and they want to criminalize abortion at 15 weeks nationally. Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, who wants to become Speaker, has come out in favor of criminalizing abortion at 15 weeks.
Are they going to pay for all those babies?
Exactly, and they won't. No, they won't. And they want to ensure that. And not only did they say that they want to cut programs like Medicare, but that they want to, and Social Security, but that they want to hold the entire United States economy hostage by threatening to not raise the debt limit in order to force President Biden to cut Medicare. And so we want to talk about class issues. This will be so destructive for all our older adults in this country.
What are your thoughts on AOC? Do you agree, disagree? Are the Democrats going to get stuff done? So you're going to hear a different perspective here. So Biden's agenda hangs in the balance if Republicans take Congress on a wide array of issues like taxes and judges. President Biden's opportunities would shrink as Republicans vow to dismantle much of this legislative accomplishment. So if Congress does flip with midterms, we're going to hear a totally different perspective on the economy, government, all that. Take a look at Ted Cruz and what would happen there.
One that annoyed me so much was he's attacking the Trump tax cuts as tax cuts for the rich. And in our riff and in our discussions on the show today, every data point we have shows the biggest winners from the 2017 tax cuts were the blue-collar middle class, the lower middle class, minority groups, Hispanics, blacks, Asians, women, for example. And the upper end actually didn't get much relief because they closed down the state and local tax deduction. Remember that? So the rich Biden backers are still bleeding about that. I mean, he continues with this Democrat malarkey about tax cuts for the rich.
Well, and it's actually very funny. The socialists in the Democrat Party, the one tax cut they wanted is they wanted to give back full deduction for state and local taxes so that billionaires in blue states could not pay as much because that's who's funding the Democrat Party. Look, if you look at the results, here's a radical economic proposition. Jobs are good. I mean, you look at the results, and you were in the Trump White House, you saw it firsthand. We had the lowest unemployment in 50 years. We had the lowest African-American unemployment ever recorded, lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. We had booming prosperity. We had 7 million people come off of food stamps, get jobs, and provide for their kids. Poverty was going down. Median wages were going up. And listen, Larry, part of the reason why I think this election is going to be such a wave election, it's going to be like 2010. Republicans are going to retake both houses, is a very simple question for folks at home. Are you better off now than you were 2 years ago when Joe Biden became president? And if you're a big tech billionaire, if you're a human trafficker, if you're a fentanyl dealer, then the answer is yes, and you probably ought to vote for the Democrats. But for everyone else, life has gotten much, much worse. If you're a senior at home, and you've worked 20, 30, 40 years, you've saved responsibly, you have a 401k, you have retirement, you've seen your 401k plummet 20, 25%, 30%. The average nationwide is $34,000 of retirement savings have been blown up under Joe Biden. You have less to provide for your needs, and the cost of everything is going up. You're having a hard time putting food on the table, paying rent, paying mortgage, paying gasoline. Those folks are pissed. And we've also seen the national studies showing of people near retirement, fully a third of them have delayed their retirement because of the disaster of the Biden economy. People want to get back to jobs and prosperity. I think there's no more important issue in this election.
He was delivered a boom. In the first quarter of his presidency, growth was 6.5%. He's calling that a recession as recently as Friday. Within 12 to 15 months, the economy is heading down in a contraction. He was delivered an inflation rate, Senator, that was slightly above 1%. It has risen almost 13% during his presidency. He denies all this, and I think I come back to this point. Oh, let me say this, too. So he's saying the deficit came down $1.4 trillion. It had nothing to do with him. His original program would have increased it by $4 or $5 trillion. He didn't say, though, $5 trillion in new debt and borrowing requirements, which is what mainstream nonpartisan groups are saying. So I'm just thinking that part of this wave you describe, with which I completely agree, people have lost confidence in him. If you can't deal with the facts, then you're not the guy to solve the problems.
And when you're fundamentally dishonest, look, you're an economist. Since you and I were both in short shorts, a recession has been defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. We're in that. We have had 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. And what did the White House do right before the second consecutive quarter came out? They magically redefined recession to say, oh, no, that's no longer a recession. I guess that's like a fuzzy bunny rabbit now or something. And the Orwellian doublespeak to say this recession doesn't count. Listen, you're right. When Biden came into office, he had enormous advantages. You had idiot blue state Democrats who had shut much of the economy down. People were going back to work. Talk about a tailwind. If he'd just shut up and gone down to the basement and done nothing, we would have continued with economic growth and prosperity. But instead, they assaulted, number one, American energy production. Dozens of new rules, regulations, cutting off debt, cutting off equity capital, hammering U.S. production.
Well, hang on, Senator Cruz, hang on. He said on Thursday he has done nothing to block oil and gas production. He said that. He said that definitively. Are you saying he was wrong?
No, I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm saying he's lying. There's a difference between being wrong and lying. First day in office, what did he do? Halted the Keystone Pipeline. That's 800,000 barrels a day of oil from Canada he shut down. Within days after that, he shut down new oil leases onshore and offshore. And by the way, when he was campaigning for president, he promised to shut down new leases onshore and offshore on federal land. He followed through on that promise. Not only that, shortly thereafter, he shut down production on ANWR, the incredibly petroleum-rich area of Alaska. We have seen, and I talk to leaders in the oil and gas business all the time, in Texas and across the country. What we have seen is a regulatory onslaught. The banking regulators he's putting in are trying to cut off all new debt, and there are a bunch of woke Wall Street banks that won't loan to oil and gas. And the SEC is trying to cut off new capital. Now, check me on this, and it's been a while since I've taken an economics class. But if a company can't get debt and it can't get capital, how the hell are they supposed to drill new wells?
They can't.
So now that you've heard both perspectives from AOC, Ted Cruz, from the Democrats and Republicans, what are your thoughts there? With the midterm elections, who do you think is going to control Congress come in November? Let me know your thoughts on that. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully cheer you up a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. And what I was gonna say is just enjoy the moments right now. Don't be like maybe I'm not good for this. Just do it. Something, if you want to do it, then you can, because it's just a one-time thing, because you should always do something now than always later, because then it might not be the right time and it might not be the right ending. You might have like people or like
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your support. And to show my support and give back to the Wise Flies community, I'm giving out $200 checks, and I will be giving all the details in tomorrow's video, Monday, October 31st. So stay tuned for that video. I'll announce how you could potentially win the $200 checks. Really excited to give those out again. I think I missed last month. A lot happened, but sorry about that. It is going to happen again starting tomorrow. I'll announce all the details then. And yeah, if you want to check out any of my other videos, my other channels, click right up here. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.